Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is Shantia here. So today we're doing a review for Married at First Sight. This is for season 14, episode 16. In this episode, the couples are having their final moments together before decision day. And today I'm going to be summarizing where the couples are at, and I also want to share a few predictions today about each of the couples. I also want you guys to tune in next week. I'm going to start a deep dive into each of the couples, talking about like the primary things that we can all become a lot more self-aware of to cultivate healthier relationships for ourselves. If you have not yet, go ahead and check out my Heal, Feel, and Reveal series. It's a very powerful series that is there to help women live in a way that feels the most natural to them, but also to help bring their inner work and outer work together and create a powerful life for themselves, really cultivate and manifest their dreams. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this review. We're gonna go ahead and start with Mark and Lindsey first. One of the first opening scenes with Mark and Lindsey was that she had him take a paternity test. And I was just like, why? He obviously wasn't privy to that. Now, I don't know if he was acting. It didn't seem like she asked him. I think that's a very personal question for you to ask someone, like if you want to do that on TV, especially looking at his sperm count. So it just goes to show that's like one of the other things that she does or has done that kind of emasculates him, and it's just her dominating, coming over a little bit too aggressive, being, just too forward in her approach when it comes to her partners. That really bothered me. I was just, honestly, I was surprised they showed it on TV, but I also know it's just how life works and it's perfectly natural. But I also think she was out of line for having him do that and spring that up on him. Totally invades his boundaries. Just think what would happen if a guy were to come up. I know double standards, yes, men and women are different, but just think if a man were to come up to a woman and say, hey, are you fertile? It's like, excuse me. First of all, there's a way to approach me about it. And second of all, why are we doing it on TV? A really good example of, to me, an unhealthy approach to dominating your partner and not allowing them to breathe. So later he was having a conversation. Mark was having a conversation with his friend. And one of the things that his friend said that struck me is that Mark is apparently better in relationships. He's better in relationships than he is alone. So Mark is going through a whole lot, and I have to give Lindsey points for that. Yes, he is going through a lot, and that is probably adding to the equation of their marriage and making it that much more difficult for him to want to be present and want to connect with her. Yet at the same time, she doesn't understand. She's also making excuses for herself in the areas where she's not taking accountability. Obviously, he's going through things, but there are some obvious things that she needs to work on that I have yet to hear that she's willing to work on any of those things. His friend said that thing about, oh, you're better in a relationship. And to me, it just brought up a lot of questions about codependency. I don't think any person is better in a relationship. I think you bring who you are to the relationship. And the relationship, if anything, it amplifies the things that your better qualities and your worst qualities, depending on how present you are, how you respond to your partner. Totally disagree with that. I think who you are is who you are, in and or out of a relationship. This idea of creating codependency in any kind of partnership and telling people, hey, you might be better in a partnership. No, you bring yourself, whoever you are prior to the relationship. That's who you bring when you're in a relationship. The points that Lindsey made that were really good was Mark was having a hard time with transition and adapting to change. And his friend talked about the same thing, that Mark has an issue with adapting to change. I will give her points for being very clear, because sometimes I do think she's very self-focused. She's very so in her own energy. She has a hard time seeing his concerns, seeing why his concerns are valid. Apparently, Mark has issues adapting to change. He is going through a lot. I feel like he does, or is trying. He just looks like he's trying so hard to figure out a way to adapt. He's trying to adjust to her too much ishness. He's trying to deal with his mom. I will admit he does have issues with the change because of his childhood. Like him having that attachment to his childhood home and him having the attachment to his mother's home, to me signifies to me he's very just attached to the past. He's very attached to his family. And family for Mark is a huge motivator. It's a huge motivator for him, and she has to learn to acknowledge that. Like, he wants to be surrounded by his family. And some people are like that. They really feel comforted being around their family. They had that dinner together, sitting across from each other from the table in his mother's house. And he was saying, hey, maybe we can build a life together. I thought that was so romantic and so thoughtful for him to paint that picture. And the next thing you know, she's coming in with, we're going to change this and change that. They are on two entirely different sides of the spectrum. He wants to attach himself to accepting the past, keeping things the way they are, and she wants to just jump into overhauling everything and going into this new vision of creating something new. She's the adventurous one. He wants to kind of stay the same. That's where the polarity is between the two of them. They're so different from one another, but I think that's going to be the breaking part of their relationship. You want to share the same values. You know, you want to accept each other. Instead of saying, I just want to keep things the way they are and I just want to change everything, why can't we find a way to merge our ideas, get on the same team? So she still wants to dominate with her way of doing things, otherwise it's a no. And he just wants her to come into that and be accepting of how he is and how attached he is to his family. My prediction for Mark and Lindsey is that they're going to say yes. The reason why I think they're going to say yes is because they've been through so much. They've literally been through what people would typically go through after like 3 or 4 years of marriage. They've already been through so much. Because both of them are at that mature age of wanting to do the work, I think they're going to say yes. I think long term it's not going to work. They're too different. Their values, their core values are too different. He's very focused on family. His motivator is family. Her motivator is being in love and creating this new experience, and then also wanting to dominate. And it's just not going to work for either of them. All right, so that's my opinion of Mark and Lindsey. That's my prediction for Mark and Lindsey. Later on, I'm going to do a deep dive on Lindsey and Mark, talking about wound mates and helpmates, because I think they're a perfect example of wound mates and helpmates. Let's go ahead and move on to Noi and Steve. I really think Steve has all the boxes checked. I think he makes a really great partner. I think he's a really smart person. He's very patient. He's thoughtful, caring, loving. He has all of those qualities that I think make a really safe and wonderful partner, except for he doesn't have the most important box I think checked off, which is the job situation. This is a primary thing that is standing between Noi and Steve and them saying yes. They both are, they're in love with each other. They really genuinely like being with each other. When they're sitting there making jokes, I just feel the laughter. Like, I feel the chemistry, I feel the caringness between the two of them. Noi voiced to her friend that she wants him to be more of a hustler, right? She's a hustler, she wants him to be more of a hustler, and it just seems like he's very comfortable in not wanting to go back to work. That's just what it is. I don't think he's not going to not work. I don't think he doesn't have a savings, but I totally agree with Noi when she says she can only go based off of what he's doing now, not based off what he can do. I can say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and not do any of it. And in a marriage, especially when you're sharing finances and financial obligations together and big responsibilities together, you want to make sure that your partner holds their part and you want to see the evidence of it. Sure, he has the background, the references to represent him and say, hey, he's a good guy, he's a hardworking person, but he doesn't want to do the sales engineer job. That's the thing I'm kind of confused about. It doesn't seem like he wants to do the sales engineer, because that was his argument. When they were sitting across from the table, having dinner with one another, his argument was, hey, I was a sales engineer for 4 years. I put in a lot of work into it. It doesn't sound like you want to be a sales engineer. He just says, I can do it. I can do it. But in a marriage, because marriage requires long-term stability, you need a long-term stable plan when it comes to your finances and when it comes to your income and knowing how you're going to make that work. She doesn't really fully know him. She doesn't know all of his situation. So it's like, really, I can only trust what you show me, because he might be in a totally transitional phase of his life where he's just wanting to experiment and try different things. And she hasn't seen that evidence. They haven't had those conversations. So while they're in bed having these 3-hour-long conversations, exchanging really cute jokes together, they should be having these conversations. And I just don't think he's bringing it up because it's not clear. If it's not clear for her, it's just not clear. I think she just feels really uncomfortable and frustrated because she has a hard time expressing herself and communicating, and she doesn't know how to directly just say to him, this is what I need. I mean, I think she's trying. When he gets defensive like that, it's hard for her, I think, to come back at that, because she's like, well, I want to experience the love and the good feelings. I don't really want to go into that place of being frustrated or expressing it outwardly. However, that's just a part of marriage or any relationship really is, you're gonna have conflicts and just bring things up and be very direct and talk about what your needs are, your requirements are, and what's going to work for you moving forward. Noy's solution to this problem, I feel like, they're basically kind of hinting that they're going to say yes, is that they say yes and they don't move in together. And I think I'm going to talk about this when I do their deep dive. I think that's the right thing to do until he does get a job and shows her he is financially responsible with his current work. Then that would show and demonstrate that he's a partner that could handle having kids in 2 years or so. I thought it was interesting that Steve was buying Noy a ring. I don't know if it was within the $5,000 to $10,000 range. I think his budget was $10,000 for that ring. That is very generous. I would rather you get a job than get me a ring, because I'm like, it's a sweet gesture. I'm just kind of wondering where his head is with that. It's a very generous gesture, but it's not the thing that she asked of you. She didn't ask of you to demonstrate gifts. She asked you to get the job, which takes me to their joke that they had in bed. And she was saying, hey, what would you have done differently? And he's like, I would have just gotten the job. So, hey, Steve, there, he knows that he should have got the job. So why not just get the job? The second thing he said was that he should have just ate the pasta. My prediction is that Noy and Steve are definitely going to say yes. I think they have potential to figure it out. So long as Steve gets that job, they can make it work for sure. Because she's not asking him to be a sole provider. She's asking him to contribute. And she wants him to contribute as much as she is when it comes to the work. Now, the cleaning situation, they both may have to figure that out, because I do think Steve was right when he said that she snaps. Why does she snap? Because she has a hard time expressing her feelings, so she holds things back. So as long as she works on that and he works on his thing, they're gonna make a great couple and they can be really, really successful together. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to Katina and Olajuwon. The primary thing that keeps coming up is, when Olajuwon was having that conversation with his ex-coach / friend, he kept bringing up she's changing her plans around school. Now she might want to go to school for 3 to 5 years. I understand his frustrations. Those plans do put pressure on a relationship, because then you have to wait. However, he is, what is he, like 28, 29? In 3 to 5 years, well, 5 years might be a long time, but in 3 years time, that's a nice amount of time to wait to have kids, instead of like rushing into the experience, because I think he definitely has some maturing to do. If he's willing to have that patience with her, that's what matters. The thing that I see time and time again with Olajuwon is I really do think he just chooses himself. And that's why I feel bad for Katina, because I don't think she's thinking about herself in these situations. She's thinking about them. She's thinking about what they can do, what they've created. She's clearly hinted that she is looking forward to the future with him. She's worked through his very direct, aggressive way of, responding to her at times. She's worked through it. She's forgiven. She's let it go. I said this from the beginning. She just needs to go on a journey to just be on her own, because I don't think he's it. I just don't think he's it. He's always generously complimenting her. He's always saying, hey, you did this, you did this, you did this. But I feel like when it comes to sometimes his demonstration of his care for her, he's not really supportive of her. He said multiple times, is she enough of a woman for me? So the fact that he's questioning that already says he doesn't think that she's enough of a woman for him. During their flag football game, he didn't pick her first. All the men chose their wives first. He was the only one who didn't pick his wife. And that was so symbolic of their relationship. His messaging is also very consistent. He's always telling her, hey, be selfish, look out for you, do what's right for you. That to me exemplifies that he's looking out for him. Okay, here's my prediction. Overall, I think they're going to say yes. I think they're going to say yes at decision day, because Katina is just a sweet, caring person, and she's willing to do the work and put in the work. And for the most part, she sees that he has potential to be a really good and caring partner. I think he will say yes to give it a chance. But overall, long term, I don't think it's going to work out, because he continues to choose him first. He hasn't really opened his heart to her, even though, she's just such a sweet, caring person. Seems to me he is turned off by her work ethic. She's at home working on the computer. He's criticizing that she's not cooking versus, using that free time to cook. But the thing is, if she doesn't want to cook, maybe you guys need to have those discussions, and she needs to vocalize that. Maybe she just doesn't want to cook. But he says that. He's like, I deserve a wife who cooks. Long term, both of them should say, it would be best for them to say no, because long term, I just want Katina to just go back into working on herself. If anything, Married at First Sight is a really great opportunity for all of these couples, and as individuals, for them to figure out what they need to work on to really bring in that higher aligned partner that they're looking for, someone who's really aligned with everything that they want. When you give the power over to someone to choose your partner versus, God or the universe, which is way better, when you give someone, a person, humans the choice to choose your partner, and they don't really have like a system like Married First Sight versus traditional arranged marriages in different cultures work totally differently. They have a very specific system. They always choose some people who have like very similar values, very similar cultures. So it's a lot easier for them to arrange them. But in this situation, it's a coin toss every single time. You just don't know what you're going to get. That is what I'm thinking for Katina and Olajuwon. I wish the best for them. Let's go ahead and move on to our final couple, Jasmina and Michael. So it's the same song and dance. Same song and dance. Michael is trying to put for the effort. Jasmina is trying to put in some kind of effort as well, but the feelings, the spark is not there. Michael was having a conversation with his sisters, and he clarified to them, I'm not looking for a friend, I'm looking for a romantic partner, but that special ingredient is just not there. His sister was great. His sisters are wonderful. His sister talked about, you're overthinking, you're overprocessing, you're not really allowing yourself to just like dive into this experience. Why don't you, and the fact that you overthink it means that you really care. I do think Michael, he really heeds and respects the opinions of his sisters. And I would say almost too much. Too much, because when it comes to, honestly, the bigger and most important things, it's great to get advice. But if you're not already sure, you might need to reassess what you're doing. Because you don't need that extra validation. I feel like he really leans on his sisters. It's admirable that, yes, you can do that, but I think when it comes to like choosing your partner, really, that's like a heart thing, not a head thing. And I think he really just needs to dive into listening to his own intuition about what works. Jasmina, she's just not that into him. That's what it is. She's just not that into him. It's just not there. I think she hasn't fully vocalized it. Maybe it could be anything. It could be, maybe she doesn't find him as attractive. Maybe she thinks he's boring. Maybe he's just not really exciting or sparking the joy. Who knows? But she's stuck in the friend zone. She friend zoned him, and she's stuck in the friendship. When he was talking about his romantic feelings with her, when he took her out to salsa dance, or not salsa, but dance, and I thought that it was really cute that he did that. That was his approach to it. But his energy isn't romantic. Like, I'm just gonna say that really quick. I know he's trying to exemplify it, but I really feel like he doesn't really know in himself what that feels like, to feel the, I don't know if it's just with her. I'm not seeing it. I'm not feeling it across the TV. You can take someone out and light the candles and do this romantic display, but I'm not really feeling that from him. Like, he's putting it all out there, and I think he's holding a lot back, and he's still in his head. I was talking about do the romance, he's doing the romance, right? But it's not feeling romantic. That's the thing. Energetically, I just don't feel the romance between the two of them. I think he's holding back a lot. And honestly, her body language was a huge indicator. Her body language, when he was talking about his romantic feelings for her, was like this. I know those. I know that look. Oh, okay. I know that look. Yeah. So she's not feeling him. It's clear. And I think I don't know. He needs to get out of his head. If it's not there, it's not there. Don't over process it. Don't push it longer than it has to go. Don't force it where it doesn't fit. They're just, to me, a couple where the energy connection just missed the mark. I don't think either of them were wrong. I think they both tried to some extent. I honestly see Michael, I think the best thing for him to do, this is my opinion, is to be single for like 5 years and just go work on that confidence, on himself. That's just the self-love. Just work on that. He gives me monk energy. He gives me monk energy. Like, I feel like he needs to go and just like go on a seeking spiritual journey and learn about himself through more experiences or just diving inwardly. Because I'm not really getting a sense. Like, he almost just feels half presence. I know that's a lot, but that's what he feels like to me. Jasmina, I feel like she was kind of rushing through this experience. I'm surprised that the both of them want so much kids and so soon, because I just feel like he needs to get to know himself more. And I think most men in that range of 20s, in their 20s, are still getting to know themselves, which is why I feel like a lot of those men, totally going off topic here, on the ultimatum, most of them were not ready for marriage because they're still trying to figure themselves out. You know, they say it's the finances. Yes, that might be part of it, but really it's like they need to go out and see themselves do more things to see what they're capable of. They need to go do more hunting in the world and figure out who they are. And I feel like I get that vibe from Michael. I think from Jasmina, she wanted to be in the marriage, but she didn't feel present throughout this whole thing. I don't know if she just didn't feel it. You know, she didn't feel that spark, that romance, the attraction, and that's what just did it for her. But I'm not feeling, she wasn't really present throughout this romantically. There was no romantic potential between the two of them. Okay, with that said, I think they are going to be the only couple that is going to say no. And I think that is the best decision for them. Move on and just go live your lives. In spite of what that psychic said, I think relationships are a very sensitive place to try to force feelings. Save that for someone else. Save that for the right person or someone who feels more right for you. Okay, so that is my review for Married at First Sight. If you guys have not, check out my Heal Feel Reveal series. Check out my website. It's my first and last name, Shantia Crowley. Check out my Monday motivational videos that I'm also dropping. They're shorter videos that give you a little bit of Monday motivation to get your week started. Little snippets of like my Heal Feel and Reveal series where I just give quicker advice. And then be here for next week when I do some deep dives into the couples. My deep dive, obviously, into Jasmina and Michael is going to be about she's just not that into you, because that was the obvious theme between the two of them. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I hope you guys have a wonderful day or evening, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.